Welcome back, everyone. So we're going to see how this goes. My voice may sound a little bit different right now. I am still suffering the lingering effects of COVID from the break. And so it's been several weeks since I got sick, but my voice is still recovering. So we'll see if I can handle the 50 minutes. I may be choking out the last few words. I was very tempted at the beginning of class today to just basically say that we were going to be electing a student representative and say that that person would be responsible for aggregating all the information in the class, all the notes. It'd be like 4 or 5 extra hours to class. I was going to have you guys in on a joke. We're going to elect Jared since Jared's not here right now, and yeah. He wouldn't be able to speak in his defense. But I decided against that. So, Jared, when you watch this video, know that I was going to troll you and I decided not to. And so, yeah. Hope you all had a good break. As you heard, mine is a little bit eventful. I don't know if you, several of you, I think, had me in a class last spring. And last spring, I was complaining about how my Christmas break was ruined for the fact that my mother spent 3 days in the hospital. And so I was very, very fortunate and grateful to my mom that, and by the way, one of those 3 days was Christmas Day itself. So I was giving my mom a little bit of grief about that and saying, I'm glad that you didn't do it this day. Well, I definitely jinxed myself when I did that because the day of Christmas, she had a fall and then she fell a couple of days after that. She's 83 years old, so falls are really serious. And so turns out that she had COVID, and so she managed to one up herself. Not only did she spend a couple days in the hospital again, but she made all of us sick as well. So what's worse than getting having your mother sick for 3 days? Having your mother get sick and then make everybody else sick. So yeah, that was my winter break. Fortunately, it was not nearly as stressful as last year, just because I have things a little bit better organized. I am a little bit behind. Some of you may be wondering why the course is not available for forensics and Brightspace, and it's because I'm still wrapping up some stuff. It will be available later today, but if you were really, really anxious and worried about that, trust me, I'm on top of it. I haven't forgotten about it. I just have been a little bit behind with, being sick and all. Welcome to Seminar on Auditing, and we've got some exciting stuff coming up this semester. I've made some changes, or at least I'm planning on making some changes to the course from previous semesters that I'm going to talk a little bit about. I was going to make a pretty substantial change, and I decided not to rock the boat too much, mostly because I thought the time commitment would just be a little bit too much, both for you and for me. But I do have some plans for changes on how I want to approach things. Some of those things are going to be imposed upon me, and I'm questioning myself about those changes. But some of those are going to be imposed upon you, and they will require additional time commitments for previous semesters, but I think it will be beneficial overall. But I will get to that. So just a quick note, this is going to be a little bit interesting. So my office hours are a little bit different than what they've been in the past. And usually my office hours are Monday and then a substantial amount of time on Tuesday and then Wednesday and the Friday. This is the first time since my first year teaching that I've had like a split schedule of Monday through Friday teaching. I technically did that on last spring as well, but last spring was chaos because I was teaching 4 courses and I was teaching my regular schedule plus forensics. So I had office hours just skewed all about. I don't have office hours scheduled for Tuesday and Thursday. That does not mean that I will not be available on Tuesday, Thursday. It just means that I just have the flexibility of being able to have my office hours here. So as always, if you need to get a hold of me and it's a Tuesday or Thursday, you can reach out to me. Usually I'll be in my office. If not, you can reach out to me and we can set up a Zoom call. Standard stuff as before. We're going to be in here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or I should say not in here. I think everybody noticed that there were 2 classrooms. A little bit of explanation behind that. The way the class structure works is that we're going to have multiple days out of the class semester where you'll be working in groups the way that we did back in AIS, very similar structure. It was very inconvenient for everybody to try to do group work in the classroom that were scheduled, which is 1416. So I asked Dr. Caden if we could set up in here. This was last year as I asked that I made that request. And apparently she just rolled it forward to this year, which is why it has 2 classrooms listed. So it's convenient because when we set up for those class sessions, then you as groups may want to come in here so you all have access to the computers. It's not required that you be in here, but we're going to be default in the other classroom. So There may be some class periods that I say specifically that want to come in here, specifically if we're doing technology work, but for the most part, we'll be starting in that classroom, and then you'll make the decision if you want to come into this classroom or not. But that's the plan for that. There are no required course materials for this. This is a question that I had. Usually had a couple of texts that I've done in the past. One was a casebook that I really liked. The casebook is becoming a little bit outdated, which is why I got rid of it. So I'm going to try to do all self-generated case materials, which means that I'm going to be finding some cases. Some of those I've already got. I think I've got the first few weeks already set up, and I'll have those posted by the end of this week. Some of these I'm going to be researching for the first time now. I plan on doing some of the same cases. I'm just going to be using different case analysis. So one of the very first cases that we used to do in this course was Enron, which was a very well-written case by a former professor of mine. And since we're no longer using his casebook, I'm going to have to research a different Enron case. So we will still do Enron because it's a fun case to talk about and it's got a lot to learn from it. But I'm going to be researching some new cases. The good news is that means there's no cost to you because that is kind of the goal here, is that I think I can do the teaching just as effectively without having to rely on everybody buying a casebook. That being said, it is a pretty cool casebook, and my name is actually in the casebook. Yeah, since I was written by a former instructor of mine, one of mine, he changes the names and he uses students of his in there. So I'm a manager of a restaurant. It was pretty cool. Anyway, I will say that if you do still have your textbook from undergraduate auditing, whether that be 12th edition or the 2025 Evergreen edition, whichever one you used and when you were in my class, that would probably be beneficial just simply because you want to have that reference. It's not required. You can find all the information that you will need through online resources. But since that was kind of what you learned auditing through, you may want that. We're not going to be specifically working through any activities or exercises in that. The stuff that we're going to be using is all going to be publicly available or provided by me. But you may want to have that as a reference, especially if you're looking at some difficult auditing work. My assumption is that everybody has taken auditing, and though for some of you it's been at least a year, some of you maybe a year and a half or possibly two, that you still have some acquaintance with the basic materials. We're also going to have several class periods where I'm going to refresh you on that information. That's going to be the next 3 class sessions. We're going to have a cram session of all the stuff that we learned back in 417. But a lot of this you're going to be researching and reviewing on your own, and we'll talk about how that works here in just a bit. Course objectives and the catalog description, those are pretty boilerplate and straightforward. As far as what you're going to be doing, it says 6 to 9 hours outside of class working on this course. I would say it's going to be on the low end. It really depends on the nature of the work that we're going to be doing, especially for the CPA prep activities. My expectation is that you will be putting some substantial amount of time into it, but I do not anticipate that on most weeks that you'll be doing more than 9 hours of work in the class. As I said before, we're going to be doing a lot of work contained within the class sessions, so that will be a lot of the work. But as far as the outside work, there will be some, but it will not be extraordinary. So as I talked about before, we're going to have a pretty straightforward schedule. It's going to be very similar to what you saw in AIS. And for Alex and Isaac, you'll get caught up on this when you hear me refer to advanced AIS. Basically, our Monday class sessions will be group work activities where you all work on a case in class. That's kind of why this classroom is set up aside for that. They will be fairly complex technical cases, but the groups are designed to work together. I will assign the groups, and just as before, there will be one group leader and a whole bunch of group followers, so to speak. I haven't decided on the group sizes yet. I think it's probably going to be 4 groups, but we'll figure that out as we move forward. Or it may be 5 groups. The problem is that there's 14 people, which would leave a group of 2, which is a little bit awkward. So I'm probably going to lean towards 4, but I'm not 100% certain yet. Yeah, we'll have the research and group analysis assigned case, and the Wednesdays we'll have the debrief. Fridays, we're going to have what we call the CPA prep sessions. Now, this always is a little bit of a contentious issue, and I'm going to go into more detail on this. I realize that not everybody in this room is planning on sitting for the CPA exam. My assumption is, even if that's not the case, that you're going to have some sort of certification exam that you're going to have to sit for, which does require exam testing, multiple choice specifically. So I do think that this experience worthwhile. More importantly, even if you're not planning on sitting for the CPA exam, one of the cornerstones of auditing and just the accounting profession in general is critical thinking and problem solving, which I'm going to try to help you improve at that through these activities. So even if it's not directly relevant, it will have some ancillary relevance regardless of what the path that you're taking is. As far as the professional technical cases, these are going to be the cases that I'm going to assign. Some of them are going to be similar to like the EWC cases that we did back in 417. A little bit more detail on those. There's going to be a lot more work on your part to put those together. Some of these are going to be more about professional issues that you're going to have to answer. They're going to run the gamut. Some of them will be specific to topics, like I said, Enron, where you'll have to do some research on the case and learn a little bit about it, and then talk about the auditing aspects of it. They should be very similar in nature to how I set up the advanced AIS course, is where I will give you some prompts and they answer the questions. As before, they will be broken down into individual components, and oftentimes those individual components will involve reading the cases and answering some specific questions up front, and then there will be some follow-up questions that you will work on as a group. As before, the group leader will be responsible for the aggregation of all the information, and just as a reminder, the group leader will aggregate all information developed by the group. So the individual answers will be submitted to the group leader, and then all group answers will also be submitted, because I want to see that everybody in the group did their part. So if you do the individual assignment, you have to read the case and you have to answer the individual questions. So nothing new on that front. I just want to make sure that you clarify that as the group leader, you have to provide all of that detail, and it's one submission. So we'll discuss the group as a class. I do expect everybody in the class to be engaged in the conversation. This is something that I talked about in Advanced AS. Even though the group leaders are the ones responsible for debriefing on the case, everybody should be paying attention. There will be questions on the quizzes about the cases, and so some of that will be important to make sure that you note. But again, a lot of this is going to be foundation for what we're going to be doing as far as the CPA work that we're going to be doing after that. All right, so starting next Friday, we're going to start reviewing questions in the CPA exam. So if you know the auditing section on the CPA exam, the Becker prep for the CPA exam, there's 6 modules. We're going to cover all those modules to varying degrees. We're not going to actually do a Becker review session. So those of you saying, oh, I don't need to take Becker now, it's like, that's still a really good idea to work. We're going to cover it at a fairly high level. That being said, I do think this is valuable for kind of an introduction, especially if you've not taken a CPA section through Becker before. The idea being is that these questions are extremely complex, especially the auditing questions. And so learning how to answer these questions is going to be important. So you may want to take notes on this part right here, simply because this is not specified in the syllabus. I was still trying to figure out exactly how I was going to format this. In the past, what I'd done on this section is I'd basically just given the questions to my students, and I said, answer the questions and then we'll come in and talk about them. There was no expectation of additional documentation or additional information provided. And I've noticed a very disturbing trend. And the performance on these questions has just gone way down over the past few years. So when I started doing this, performance was really, really good, and it's gone way down. And it's not in the direction you expect. The answers are still correct, but people are not able to explain their answers when I ask them to discuss them. And this has been very, very heavily correlated to the advent of AI. And so a lot of times, and this has happened in auditing too, the 417 class, a lot of people are just taking the answers or the questions, pasting them into AI tools, and then coming up with the answer. I want to clarify that that is completely fine if you choose to do that. That being said, that should not be a route to answering and learning the material. That should be a starting point for learning the material. So we're going to go back to basics. Does everybody remember 417, what we did for the multiple choice questions back in 417? That you had to answer the multiple choice question and also document your reason for the answer. We're going back to that, okay? Furthermore, we're going to be working in 2 phases. So the first phase is going to be, you're going to have questions on your own. This is probably going to be 5 or 6 CPA multiple choice questions, as well as a task-based simulation question. So kind of similar in content to what we did back in 417. For the multiple choice questions, you'll be responsible for answering the question in a similar vein to the way we did in 417. You'll select an answer, and then you'll justify your answer through 3 or 4 sentences below to try to just discuss why it is that you chose that answer versus the other available answers. I will tell you right now, this is going to be a level harder than 417. I'm going to be selecting Becker provided questions. So the level of the detail in the questions is much more difficult. Plus, these are Becker questions, which are notoriously difficult and can sometimes very confusing. So if you feel like that this is we've ramped up a notch, the answer is yes, we're at graduate level now. So you are at undergraduate level 4, we're at graduate level now. So if you struggled with the stuff in 417, just wait. But um, the answer is not to cause you frustration. The reason not to cause you frustration is to get you acclimated to what you're going to be expected to do. And this exercise is going to be far more important for this point, which is why I think it's relevant to go through. So again, the multiple choice questions, you're going to be providing a discussion on why you answer the questions, and that will be part of your submission for your homework. We'll also have a task-based simulation, which is basically like a problem type question. So I'll select those out. We will go over those in class together, and I expect you to take meticulous notes on what we're going to be answering, because I will base the majority of the quiz content on the information that we talked about in CPA exam questions, because I think that that's the most important content that we cover. So probably out of 5 quiz questions that we're going to be doing, it's probably going to be 2 on the problem or the cases that we do in class, and then 3 on the CPA questions themselves. And they will not always be the same questions. I will probably give you guys a break, and I will probably ask you some questions that we cover in class. But sometimes I will do variations of questions because I will talk about the topic. So that's the first phase, is that basically you'll do the homework, we'll review it in class just like we did back in 417. The second phase that we're going to try out, this is going to be kind of a reinforcement tool. I'm going to have you guys put all of the computers away. We're going to be in that other classroom. You're going to put your computers away. You're going to pull out a writing unit to implement, and I'm going to give you probably 1 or 2 multiple choice questions, and you're going to answer those questions by hand, okay? And when I say by hand, you're going to circle your answer, and you're going to write out a justification for me, okay? Now, yeah, I may ask, why are you doing this, Dr. Barnes? Isn't it enough that you're doing it already? And the answer is, when there's nothing on the line for these, it's very, very difficult for students to take this seriously. And I had a real problem reinforcing this the past few semesters. So my goal here is not to grade you on your accuracy. That will be part of the quiz, is going to be the accuracy portion. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at the quality of your answers in your homework, and also the quality of the answers in these practice questions that we do in class. And if the answer that you give me on your homework is very, very detailed and extravagant and shows like you've got all the technical knowledge, and the answer your question in class is like, I selected A, but I can't tell you why, I'm going to say, all right, there's a significant difference between the quality of answers you're giving me on the homework and the quality of answers you're giving me in the class period. And that shows a disconnect, okay? Probably means you're using outside resources and not really thinking about this on your own. But I want you to get into the habit of being able to justify every single answer you give in full detail. Now, I'm not saying that every single question that I'm going to ask you, you're going to have a working knowledge of, but you should still be able to give me good logical articulation of your answers for that. So this is the first time I've done this, so we're going to see how this works. I've been really disappointed with the quality of responses, and it's shown because our pass rates on the auditing section have gone down over the past few years, and I don't think that it did. So I had one of 2 options. I could actually try a new approach and try to do some ingrained articulation, or I could give you guys exams, okay? So if you want to go back to exams, we can do that too. All right, that's a possibility. But my assumption is that everybody kind of prefers this approach. So we're going to try this, and if it's not working out, we'll think about exams. But I would really like to try to avoid that. So again, I'll talk a little bit more about that once I have the first assignment out. We will review this. I know it's not detailed in here, but again, the expectation is that for all the multiple choice questions, you're going to give me detailed, diligent responses. And then we're going to review those in class, and you're going to take good notes on those so that you get in the habit of learning the information that we're covering. Okay. And then as we mentioned, the quizzes. So the quizzes are going to be just like advanced AIS. These are going to be at the first thing Friday morning. They will cover the immediately preceding material. I believe we have currently 11 quizzes scheduled, 15 points each, 5 multiple choice questions. We'll just do those on Brightspace. I think we're going to set up in the other room, and if you've got a computer, that's fine. If you're not, you can come in here and take the quiz, whatever you're more comfortable with. I don't know. We may just set up in here on Fridays. The only reason I'm a little bit hesitant to do that is that I don't want to have anybody have the computers on and running when we do the debriefs on the CPA questions. But that's enough. That's easy enough to tell you guys to log out and don't have anything open. and to work on your quizzes. So we may just set up in here for the quiz days, but since we've got that luxury. But yeah, be on Brightspace just like before. Again, you cannot use outside materials. You basically are just going to have whatever it is that you have in your noggin, and that's going to be what you use to answer the quizzes. But our first quiz will be this coming, not this Friday, but a week from Friday, and we'll cover all the review content. It is going to be fairly high level on the review content, but you will still want to make sure that you're paying close attention because this is going to set the foundation for what we're working on. Then we got something called the semester projects. I've always struggled for projects in this course. This is kind of my best one right there. I won't say that I'm 100% satisfied with it, but I've been pretty happy with it the past few years. So this is a group project that we will have 4 groups presenting in this class. So 2 groups of 3 and 2 groups of 4. And you can kind of self-select into your own groups and we'll figure those out, but whatever groups you want to be part of. So when I say these are semester projects, basically what these are going to do is these are going to be open-ended projects that you're going to be presenting for an entire class period on. So the way you can think about this is that I'm going to have you teach a class session. All right. So part of this is going to be a presentation. Part of this is going to be interaction with the class. All right. We have 4 days that we're going to be presenting, and you're going to hate this part. So 3 of these days are going to be the last 3 days of the semester, and the final day is going to be finals week. Okay, so one of the groups is going to be presenting during finals week. This is kind of my concession to the fact that we're not going to be doing final exams in this course. We are going to have a final class session where one of the groups is going to be presenting. And so if that dings my evaluation, so be it. But yeah, I think that that's something that we probably should be doing. So yeah, when I say these are open-ended, there is no particular format for this, though I do provide the oral presentation rubric online, so you can kind of look at what my expectations are. I will tell you that my expectation for this, since it is an entire class session, is that part of this is going to be presentation where you'll have slides and you'll talk about your topic. And then I encourage all of the groups to actually have some sort of activity where everybody engages in this. And to be honest, this is where the groups have actually shined in the past. The activities that they've come up with have been really, really clever and cool. Some of them have been kind of variants on things that you've probably done in their classes. Like we had one group do Jeopardy last year, okay? And we had another group do an actual activity where we learned how to do AI coding or vibe coding in R. So some of this is pretty interesting and some of the things that you can do with this. So I encourage you to think about this as your group and figure out what you're going to come up with. When I say open-ended, there are no specific deliverables or requirements for this other than the fact that you have to do it as a group and it has to be for the entire class session. But and by the way, since the class session is 1 hour, is 50 minutes, that's all you have to present. If you're the group that presents during finals week, you don't have to do 2 hours, okay? I mean, if you want to, I guess, but 50 minutes is all my expectation is for that particular day, all right? So yeah, it is worth 100 points, and you can kind of see the breakdown of this, the preparation, creativity, and the presentation breakdown for it. Pretty straightforward. I don't anticipate that people will start thinking about that too actively until after break, but you may want to start brainstorming now, at least to get some ideas and come up with that. At the very least, you may think about who you want to be in groups with, and so we can get the group set up for those presentations. Subjective assessment's pretty straightforward. This is consistent with everything I've ever done in other classes, 25 points. Easiest way to lose points on this is to fail to submit assignments or to not show up for class to basically kind of blow things off. At the graduate level, generally, this is not an issue. Most people have done pretty well on this. So yeah, here's the breakdown, 465 points. This is tentative. I will tell you that there are a few things that I'm going to throw in here as incentives. So for the quizzes, on the extra credit, always comes up. There is an extra credit opportunity for the quiz. You probably can guess what the extra credit activity is. McKenna, what do you think it is? It's the reason I asked you.
Oh, Vitus.
It's VITA, yeah, Vitus is Dr. Barnes. How could you ask the auditing students to Vitus? Because you're going to have to be responsible for that as an accountant. When people hear that you're an accountant, they're going to say, "Oh, you do taxes." Okay, so yeah. So anybody who's involved with the VITA will get a free 15 out of 15 on a quiz. Okay, so I'll place your lowest quiz score with 15 out of 15. I expect everybody should do that. So the good news is, McKenna, you've already got that 15 out of 15 locked up. So yeah. So, yeah, I would anticipate that everybody should be involved in that. So please make sure you reach out to the VITA coordinators. Is it required? No, but it's just a good thing to do. So that's why I incentivize that. So yeah. Um, as far as everything else goes, it's pretty straightforward. I do not know if these will be the final point totals. It does change from semester to semester given some situations. We're going to look at the calendar here in a little bit, and I do want to make some notes on the calendar so that you can keep an eye out for it. But it is in flux. I will tell you an interesting story. I think I may have told this already. The very first semester I taught this was I think spring of 2019 that I taught this course. Um, I had a session all worked out because I like my schedules and I like to stay sticking to the schedules. And keep in mind, 2019 is before we got into regular use of Zoom. Okay, so if a class got canceled, then you had to readjust your entire schedule. We had 6 Wednesday class sessions canceled in the first part of the semester because of weather. It was ridiculous. It was just the most insane thing. And so, yeah, so that's why I try to keep this a little bit flux, and we'll adjust as necessary for this. All right. You all know the whole drill on participation and attendance. There is going to be a focus on participation in this course, and just because you're all here, I do want you to be engaged in the class. Part of the reason I like being in the other classroom is because it's much easier for me to gauge your participation when you're not behind a computer screen. So we're going to focus on that, but we will be in here for certain class sessions. Please ask questions. Please take diligent notes. Please pay attention to the detail. Some of this stuff is not going to seem as relevant to others, but it's all important. So I want you to pay close attention to it. Note on academic integrity. Academic integrity should be pretty straightforward, is that you can work together. In fact, I encourage you to do so. This is going to be very hard stuff, okay? Even though it's not going to be seem like I'm putting a lot of emphasis on the time, the consistency of time, the things that I'm going to ask you to do are going to be very complex, like really, really high level. We're talking about the top end of Bloom's taxonomy. We're talking about evaluation, and that's going to what you're expecting to know for the CPA exam. So you can work together, you can work with other people in the class, but ultimately the work that you need to submit needs to be your own work. Do not copy it and say, well, I would have answered the same thing anyway. It says, no, you need to answer that question, okay? And so I want to make sure that we're clear on that. Working together in groups is a little bit different, but obviously the groups need to come to consensus together. It doesn't need to be the words of one person and everybody say, yeah, it's fine, I'm good with that. Okay. Should be some consistency together. I do want to talk a little bit about this next one because this one's been a problem over the past year. So AI, this is a green light course for AI, which means that you can use AI on anything in this course other than the quizzes, okay? The quizzes are the exception. The quizzes, you cannot use AI tools on that. I guess to the other degree, those CPA questions that I'm going to ask you to handwrite, I don't want you to use AI tools for that. But considering that those are just completion activities, that's not a big deal. So for the most part, anything that you can use outside resources for, you can use AI tools. That being said, this statement's been in every single one of my syllabi, and for some reason it always gets overlooked. So I highlighted it, I bolded it, or sorry, I underlined it, I bolded, I italicized it. If you use AI for any task, you have to specify that in your submission. So if you say, Dr. Barnes said I could use AI when answering these CPA questions, that is fine. Every single time you do that, you need to tell me in that assignment. Now, not for every single question. You don't need to specify for every single question you answer. But if you use an AI tool to help you with the CPA exam questions, somewhere in that assignment, you need to say, I use ChatGPT or I use Copilot to aid me in my answering the questions. That needs to be on every assignment that you use an AI tool to aid yourself with, okay? This does need to be explicitly stated. If I notice that you're using AI tools and you do not do that, that is considered academic dishonesty, okay? And you will be held accountable for that. So please make sure that if you're using AI tool, you disclose that, because this is going to be something that's really critical for you in the future when you use AI tools, that you have full disclosure of the use of AI tools. Okay. Um, let's see. I don't think there's too much here that we haven't talked about before. I think you all know the course conduct rules in here, and what's going on. These are the things that we've talked about in every single class. I think for many of you, this is like the fourth class that you've taken with me. So, we're going to be going on number 5 here on Tuesday. So, yeah, you're going to have a lot of repetition and redo for what we're going to be doing. All the rest of this is fairly boilerplate. If you have any questions, you can kind of refer to the syllabus here. Quick note, for those of you who are not familiar, we do have a new interim dean, Dean Prasad, left in middle of fall semester. So interim dean is Dr. Eric Dixon. If you need to reach out to him, obviously you can reach out to Dr. Caden. She's ever present and immortal, so she'll always be here. So yeah. But yeah, if you have any questions or issues, if you have any issues with me, then you can report to them. Hopefully that doesn't come up. If you have any issues with me, hopefully you know by now you can come to me and talk to me, and I'm very, very open and willing to communicate. But that is always an option available to you. All right, let's talk really quickly about the schedule. So as I said, we've got reviews on the plate. These should actually be on Brightspace already. These are going to look very similar from the 417 lectures, or for the 417 slides, because that's what I developed them from. This is just going to be a review of the information. And you're going to ask, do we need to know everything from 417? The answer is kind of, okay? The simple truth is that some of the information I'm not going to go into as much technical detail for memorization or knowledge, but we are going to be repeatedly using this. So if I repeat something in a given period, then it's probably important to note. I would say that some of the really critical stuff that we talked about in 417, like the management assertions, you should probably really closely refresh yourself on how to apply those, because that's going to be relevant questions. Controls identification, how to actually utilize control information, things like that. We're going to have a lot of activities in those areas. But anything that's in those slides is something I felt was important to review from 417, so probably want to cover that and make sure you have at least a passing knowledge. I would keep those slides handy because those are going to be used in review of the content we're going to be covering later on in the semester. Next Monday, we will not be meeting as a class. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I think everybody probably should know that. So we're going to be doing our reviews on Wednesday, Friday, and the following Wednesday. Our first quiz is scheduled for next Friday. That is going to cover all of the content we have reviewed. And like I said, it should be fairly high level, but I do expect you to be cognizant and knowledgeable about that information. It's not going to be final exam level of detail, but it will be information that if you paid close attention and took diligent notes over the 3 review sessions, you should have no problem with. I will also have the CPA exam prep questions posted. I should have those posted sometime. I would guess Wednesday at the latest. So if you want to start working forward on those would be the first CPA exam prep questions. I am going to go in the order of the Becker presentation, which basically Becker presentation is going to be kind of qualitative standards to start with. So Becker module 1, first part of that, and it's very high level content, so it shouldn't be too bad. So we're going to have our first technical case, which is going to actually be talking about the new sets of audit reports. Does everybody remember that we did the PCOB reports back in 417? We're going to talk about the ASB audit reports, which is completely and totally unfun, by the way. But it's important detail for you to know. So we're going to have a day of talking about that. And then we're going to cover that on the quizzes, all the audit reports in the second quiz. The reason I brought this up is not so much to cover this stuff, but I do want to talk about week number 4, because this one's going to be a little bit interesting. So currently scheduled is FBLA Day for February 4th, which is our 10th class session right here, technically speaking, okay? My current plan for that is to have a case that we're going to do on Monday that everybody will complete the weekend before, and we will come in on Monday and do the case. Then Dr. Caden will actually say, graduate students, I need help judging the FBLA competition. Can you help? And the answer will be yes, because we will not have a class session on that 4th. So if you're GTRA, be expecting to get that call. If you're not a GTRA, it would be nice for you to volunteer. Some of them are actually pretty cool. There's actually some sports business presentations that a lot of the athletes have volunteered to do before. So if you can actually contribute to that, that would be great. I am not planning that we're going to meet on this one. So you may ask, why did you leave that on here? And the answer is, remember we talked about cancellations of stuff when I talked about the six classes got canceled. Last year after FBLA, we did FBLA on week 4, and there was a snow day and it got canceled. So we actually met as a class that day over Zoom. So then we actually pushed everything forward by a week, and we tried to do it the next Wednesday because that was with their substitute day. That one was also snowed in. Okay, so yeah, we basically tried to accommodate FBLA. So I just basically said I'm going to put it in there informally on there, but if we need to move it forward or shift everything forward, we will. So right now you can make a note. We will possibly, I don't want to say probably because that's going to jinx it, that we will possibly not meet on February 4th because of FBLA Day, assuming the weather. I'm going to be monitoring the weather the week before, and if it looks like that's going to be snow, then we may make some changes to our plans. But whatever the case may be, is that we're going to actually try to fit that FBLA day in so that people can attend that and be a part of that. So if you're curious about what's going to happen with that, if it looks like that it's going to be canceled, then we'll probably move up the CPA prep to this. We'll still keep the quiz on Friday, but we'll move the CPA prep up a little bit ahead. so we don't have a blank day where we're not doing anything. Anyway, that's kind of the full schedule to start forward, and then you'll notice at the end of the break. Oh, so also traditional open class the Friday before. This is one of those ones that I leave open in case of cancellations, but generally speaking, for that week break, I usually have the Friday classes that we don't meet, so that's kind of the case. Um, and then you will notice that we got our intersemester projects, including finals week, which is our day 4 of the presentations, which that is now officially slated in the syllabus that we will be meeting during finals week. And as I did for advanced AAS, I'll probably bring some sort of snack so everybody can entertain, which I guess for the group that's presenting, that's going to be a little bit of a bummer because everybody's going to be eating while they're presenting, but you'll get to enjoy the snacks after the presentation. So, all right, any questions, anything that needs to be talked about here? I know it's a lot to cover in the syllabus, but I think we've covered everything we need to cover. On Brightspace, I will tell you that there's a lot of content in Brightspace already, but a lot of it you can't see yet. You should be able to see the course materials folder. And then week 1 and week 2, I think it's got some information. There's a whole bunch of stuff in week 3 and week 4. In fact, the quiz is already posted. I just haven't hidden. I've got it hidden. That's what I'm trying to say. So I will be updating that and making that the reason I've got it hidden is because I'm planning on making some changes to it. So that's kind of why it is. Plus, it's a little bit awkward because it's January 24th, 2025, which was a year ago. So I need to update the dates on those as well. But yeah, you should be able to access the first part or the rest of the materials for this week and the first part of next week already. Also, I meant to mention this at the beginning of class, but something I wanted to mention at the beginning of class, forgot. If you are planning on sitting for the CPA exam and you are a member of the MOCPA, which you should be a student member because it's free to do and you get involvement and get communication email, please consider getting involved in CPA Next. This is basically a prep session, a prep tool that's provided by the MOCPA for people who are planning on taking the CPA exam within the next year or so. It allows you to get access to resources as well as webcasts that can help you out with that. Considering it's complimentary and there's no obligation to it, it's kind of a neat little tool to associate with that. At least the MOCPA is complimentary. I'm not sure if there's a charge for the CPA Next participation, but something you want to investigate. It's just MOCPA.org candidates CPA Next, and you can just do a web search for MOCPA CPA Next, and it will tell you about that as well. So I'll leave out to that. All right. If there are no questions, then we are done for today. We'll have our first review session on Wednesday, excuse me, but we will be in the other classroom for Wednesday. All right. Have a good day.